Good evening, everybody. Hey, this is Joe Bullis. I will be your clinical coach for for the fall of 2022. This goes is going out to those students who are accelerated into the doctoral cohorts. My understanding now that two of you are with Dr. Shaver and two of you are with Dr. Stone. And while you are entering into the doctoral cohort, I'm helping you finish up your MELS requirements so you can get certification and licensure. So basically what that's going to entail is I am going to be your resource and I'm going to be helping you finish up the CAP, the PSYOP, and then also your competency folio, your internship hours, and then in the DRF where you upload the CAP and the PSYOP, there will also be the school ed disposition, competency analysis, and then at the end of the semester, there'll be a few other things that you'll upload in there. But the main thing and the important thing to understand is that the CAP and the PSYOP need to be the top priority for you, because what you do in the CAP and what you do in the PSYOP, you will use to finish up with the competency folio and to finish up the requirements in the DRF. So that's what we'll focus on. As you know, I will have sent you out two quick overview videos that I've done before, just to kind of give you an overview of the CAP and the PSYOP. And if you actually, at that point, you really have all the information that you need to finish both of these evidences. But tonight, August the 25th, it was my understanding that you all would be in a meeting with your doctoral professors this evening, but then I found out later that two of you met Tuesday night with your particular professor, Dr. Stone, and two of you are meeting tonight, August the 25th, with Dr. Schaefer. So for those of you who are meeting with Dr. Stone, I apologize for the miscommunication, and we are all set to record our next session on September the 29th. That will be a live session. And if you're meeting with Dr. Schaefer, of course, we'll record it for you. If you're meeting with Dr. Stone, then we will have a live session and continue forward with our clinical coach Zoom session. And that will be September the 29th at 7 p.m. I'm also doing a couple of other cohorts, a regular MELS 605 cohort, and then a pretty good size MELS 601, which is now, instead of MELS, they've changed the Masters of School Administration, so it's now MSA. And I'll transition over to that acronym as I move forward through the semester. So if you hear me refer to MELS instead of MSA, just have some patience with me. I don't think it really pertains to you all that much anyway, because you're in the doctoral cohort, and then we're finishing up your requirements for MSA, which was formerly known as MELS. Okay, so once again, it's August the 25th, and this is a recording of what I was going to go over with you tonight. And once again, we will meet in person on September the 29th. If you can't meet with that time because you're meeting with Dr. Schaefer, then we, of course, will make the recording and I'll send the link out to you. For those of you who don't know me, this is my 17th year as an adjunct professor for Gardner-Webb. I have done the doctoral cohort. I've done dissertation chairs and dissertation committees, but for the last several years, I've been working in the master's program for school administration. I've been a course instructor for several years, but here for the last, maybe the last 4 years, I have been a clinical coach, and I enjoy that very much. I think that this is the best job to have as far as I'm concerned at Gardner-Webb, because it really gives me an opportunity to get to know the candidates and have a really good relationship with them and be there when they need me. My resource to you is to help you finish the evidences, the requirements for task stream, and I really enjoy that. I don't get in the classroom much anymore. I am the executive director for federal programs and career and technical education for Wilkes County Schools. I don't get much in the classroom anymore, so being involved in Gardner-Webb kind of satisfies the need to teach and the teacher, getting my teacher fix in, if you will. So that's a little bit about me. It's my 29th year in public education, so I am looking at the possibility of retiring here and maybe in a few years. And in my tenure, I have been an EC teacher, a coach, assistant principal, been a principal at every level, elementary, middle, and high school level. I've been just about involved in every program area at the central office that you can be. I've been director of EC, director of technology. This is my second go around to being director of career and technical education. I've been federal programs director, Title I director, testing accountability director, safety director, director of middle school instruction, athletic director. So over the years, I've done filled several roles. So, the great thing about that is I do have experience, it's a pretty good experience in district administration. I am familiar with all three levels in the school system, meaning elementary, middle, and high school. So hopefully I can draw on that experience and knowledge to help you in your question. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I started up here on the Web Connect board because I wanted to be sure that you had direction on how to access my Blackboard internship cell. So we'll click on Blackboard. Now, there may be several shells that you see there. You may see a 697, 698. Of course, that's a 601, and that's all from this semester. But I will not use those shells. I don't use these shells. The shell that I use, you will find it will be uploaded in here for you as well. But that will be the MELS, and they may change that acronym at some time, but the MELS clinical internship shell that has my name bullets in it. You won't see this. It's an old shell that they just haven't deleted yet. So the shell that I will be working out of, and the shell that I will want you to post your work to, will be the MELS clinical internship _Bullis. So the one that has Bullis in the title is the one that we will work from. Now, I know you have had several different course instructors over your time with Gardner Webb, and with that comes several different clinical coaches. And while it's all basically the same, there are some differences from one clinical coach to the next, from one course instructor to the next, just like from one third grade teacher to the next, or from one biology teacher to the next. They all have their different teaching styles, and so there are some differences. So what my process might not be, but it may be a little bit different than what you're used to. But it works well for me, as it's worked well for my candidates, and I feel pretty good about being able to help you accomplish this and move forward. So I'm going to go and just kind of outline with you the process by submitting work to me for review and submitting work to me to be graded. Now, later on, we'll talk about task stream. I'm going to put that off for a little bit. Tonight, I wanted to kind of get into the process that we'll use in my Blackboard internship shell. And I also talked about the CAP a little more. So in my Blackboard internship shell, you can explore all the items in the sidebar here. There's some shell directions, templates, and resources. That's kind of where I pulled the templates that we'll be talking about tonight, and that's the CAP final evidence template. The PSYOP is there as well. There's an example of a competency folio exemplar. You've probably already been exposed to that. Well, I'm sure you have, actually, because you've already got the competency folio going on. And the tracking sheet, which you're probably familiar with as well, but we'll be looking at the CAP final evidence template. This is the one that I'll be using. It may look a little different than yours, but the information should be the same. Now, getting back up here, let's see. Okay. Templates and resources. The clinical coach Zoom meeting shell, that needs to be updated. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and delete that right now, because my schedule is so varied now with the cohorts that I've got that I can't do a comprehensive schedule. I've had to do individual schedules. So we will, just ignore this at this point in time. You have the schedule. That's the email that I sent you. And of course, the next session will be September the 29th. Video library. I will set up a file 2022 folder, and there within the Fall 2022 folder will be the I will call it this the MSA 605 CERT folder, CERT, and that's where I'll house all the videos and recordings of our class sessions. So that will be there. However, you don't really need to worry about that because anytime I do a recording, I'll send you an email, and the email will contain the link to the video. Video, that's the video library, all the handbooks that you need. These are all current and updated. So if you have any need for that, I usually work out of the scale handbook quite a bit, as you know from the overview video that I sent you. So that's where that's contained. Then we get down to the discussion board for review and the assignment Dropbox. So for this session, when you finish one of the tasks and you are ready for me to review it and give you feedback, then I would like for you to submit it here under task for review. So you would click on the task for review. You would submit task 1 here. I will get notification that you've submitted task 1, and I'll review it and I'll give you feedback. Usually it's just one time I give you feedback and you're good to go. So a lot of times at this level, it's like, hey, this is great. I can't find anything to add to it to make it any better. It's at least a level 3, probably a level 4. So just go ahead and let's take a grade on it and move on. And that usually happens a lot in 605. However, every now and then, I do have to give feedback, or feedback is required. Just want to make sure that you got a product that will score 3 or 4, because we don't want anything to delay us as we're moving through the program and the semester, and you guys especially, because I know you're dealing with the 630 and 631. I think is maybe the sections there, but anyway, the doctoral cohort that you're doing. So my job is to make this as quick an experience for you, and to give you really quick feedback, really quick turnaround, answer your questions, give you Zooms, more Zooms if you need an individual or a small group Zoom. And I don't want to do anything to slow you down. We want you to go at the speed that you can go. So like I said, when you get done with task 1 or any task with the capsule, go ahead and submit it here, and I'll give you feedback. You respond to the feedback, and then probably at that time I'll say go ahead and upload for grading. A lot of times I may say, hey, here's a suggestion. You do what you feel is best for your document, because at the end of the day, it's your document and you know what you're trying to say better than anybody else. And so when you feel good about it, submit it for a grade. So if you upload task 1, don't sit around and wait on my feedback. If you want to, you can, but certainly if you want to move forward and begin task 2 and just keep the momentum going, that's fine. I'll catch up with you, and we'll get it all finished. The CAP has 4 tasks, which you probably already know that. There is not a reflections at the end task like there were in the APTO, the OMA, the skip, and those. There's not the last task. You don't have to do any reflection. A lot of what you do in CAP, you will utilize in PSYOP, as you probably know that if you watched the PSYOP overview video as well. We'll talk more about PSYOP later. The PSYOP is basically pulling information and resources that you already have, utilizing them within the context of the PSYOP. But anyway, we'll go through task 1, task 2, task 3 of the CAP. Once I tell you it's good for grading, then I would ask that you go to the evaluation Dropbox and drop it in here for a grade. And this is where I'll collect the grades. This is where the points that I have to show that you've earned, so I can give you a grade for this section. So if you have any questions on that process, please let me know. Have any questions on my Blackboard internship shell, please let me know. As soon as I get done with this recording, my intention is to go in and update a lot of this, so it will look a little different when you get in there. So that is how I am going to ask you to submit work to me as far as getting feedback and making revisions. We'll do all that in the task for review section. And when we're ready to collect a grade, I will ask you to put it in the CAP evaluation Dropbox. And this may be very similar to the process that you've already had. It may be a little different, but hopefully it's similar, and you're familiar with that type of process. and we'll move on forward. So that is basically it for the Blackboard internship, Shell, and how I would like for you to submit work to me. Now let's talk a little bit about the CAP. The CAP, this template does look a little bit different than what you may have experienced in the past with some of the other templates, but please know that this is a title page. Um, I didn't create this template. I'm not sure why um, it is formatted the way it is in some situations, but you will need a separate template page. You will also need a school profile. If you have a profile that you've been using, then certainly you can use it here. But remember, just as you begin the CAP, go ahead and get your mindset around that whatever you use in the past, you need to make sure it's within the context of what you're doing right now. And this comes into play very, very much in the PSYOP, but be thinking about that. So if you have a school profile, what's the CAP about? The CAP is about the culture of your school. It's about, what makes your school you. So in that school profile, you may want to add some things that are specific to your school that helps explain to the reader, this is what's unique about my school. This is what's a little bit different. Now, you may already have done that in the school profile, and if you have, that's great. And you can certainly reuse it. You don't have to create another one, but just make sure it's within the context of the CAP and kind of fits, if you will, this evidence, excuse me. So basically in the CAP, as I said before, and I'm really not going to, this probably going to sound exactly the way the overview that I sent you, because there's not really much different way to kind of analyze this and break it down to its individual components. It's pretty straightforward. So, but hopefully, I may say it a different way. You may hear it a different way, and that may help you understand something, or may generate a question that you need to ask to go through this the different tasks of this evidence. Basically, you're going to analyze the teacher working condition survey. You're going to look at qualitative data of the school. You're going to observe the culture of your school. And the teacher working condition survey, you're going to look at some specific areas that do deal with the culture of a school. When you look at the qualitative data of the school, you're going to kind of observe the school and the surrounding community, which should come into play a little bit when you're doing the school profile. It's not just what's the culture of the school, but what's the culture of the community in which the school resides. Does the culture of the school affect the community, or does the culture of the community affect the school? And that's all done through observations. That's the beauty of qualitative data analysis. You just kind of get to sit back and observe and look and dig and find out the different elements that make up an environment of which you're studying. So that's kind of, you do the teacher working condition survey, you do a qualitative qualitative look observation of the school, and then you analyze, pieces and parts of the school, like the mission, the vision, the values of the school. What's the parent engagement like? How do the exceptionalities of the school function? The minorities, the ethnicity, the genders, and so on and so forth. And so you're kind of going to pull that information out as well. From all that information, and the audit, if you will, you're going to make recommendations to leadership as to the possibility of a change. This is what I found out. This is what I've seen. This is what I heard, and what has been discussed with me in conversation. And so based on all of that, you're going to create an action plan to have a positive, effective change on the culture of the school. And then you're going to present that graphically in a graphic organizer. And so that basically, once again, that kind of that's in a nutshell, that's the CAP. Now, you move on down the template. So I would prefer that you do the title page, and then as far as the directions go, you really don't need to put those in. I'm not telling you not to. That's just a personal preference of mine. A lot of evaluators like to see the directions because it helps remind them. They look at a lot of different evidences, and it helps remind them of what this specific evidence entails. So that's up to you. But if you do put the directions, I prefer you do it on a different page, not on the title page. Abstract, I haven't seen an abstract for the CAP in quite some while. If you want to put an abstract, a summary of what you looked at and what you found out, you can. It's not required. So if you do not want to put an abstract in, don't worry about it. Like I said, I haven't seen one for quite some while, and I haven't gotten any feedback from any evaluators saying, "Hey, where's the abstract?" So then I would start out with task one. Now, if you want to go ahead and put your school profile here, that's fine. Before task one, I think that's important because that kind of adds to the knowledge of the reader on the culture of the school, gives them some background information about the school, and I think it kind of helps set the stage for what you're getting ready to dig into. So if you want to do the school profile here, that's perfectly acceptable. In my opinion, it's preferable. But once again, this is your document and you determine how it fits in with your document. If I feel strongly when I give you feedback that maybe the school profile needs to be before task one and you didn't put it there, then we may have a conversation. Do your school profile if you're want to do that. Then we dig into task one. Task one, once again, you're analyzing the teacher working condition survey from North Carolina. You're from South Carolina or somewhere else. I actually have a candidate from Dubai this year. So when they get to the teacher working condition survey, not in this cohort, not in your class, but when they get to it, we'll have to kind of have a conversation about what are you doing where you live that's comparable to a teacher working condition survey. If you're in South Carolina, I do know that South Carolina does something very similar to this. But so anyway, analyze a teacher working condition survey that's relevant and comparable to the North Carolina one at your school if you're outside of North Carolina. But you want to analyze each of these areas, and this is analyzing the culture and climate of the school. Are teachers empowered? How effective or how impactful is the school leadership? Are the facilities? What are they like? What resources are available to the teacher? How is time divided out? How is time given to the teachers and the students? Instructional time, planning time, IE blocks, lunch time, all of that. All of that affects the culture of the school. If teachers feel empowered, if the leadership is strong, if the facilities are warm and neat and clean, that may not be new, but are the facilities functional? Are resources available? Is instructional time valued, but also time for teachers to collaborate? That's going to have a great impact on the culture of the school, and that's what you're going to look like. So you break that down and you analyze it, and as you look through this, you look for gaps, and then you show and bring attention to the gaps that are created. What does the teacher working condition survey say for these 5 areas, and what gaps do you identify? But as you go through the paper, don't necessarily look for gaps, but bring out the positive too. I think that's really good narrative is you kind of bring out the positive. And if you share this with your principal and with your school leadership, you know how they say, if you've got some bad news, let's sandwich it. Let's have good news can be one slice of bread. Good news can be the bottom slice of bread, and then you put the negative there in the middle. But you did 2 goods for every bad type thing. So there is how you go through task 1. You identify those gaps, and then in task 1, based on what you have found out, you create a needs assessment. Here's the background and description of the setting. So it's here. Like I said, you put it wherever you want to. The template has it here. I think it's kind of, like I said, I prefer to see it at the very beginning. Because I think it just kind of sets the stage. But if you want to stick true to the template, certainly do so. Certainly do so. So after you identify those gaps, then you do the needs assessment. And so you're going to develop a needs assessment based on the teacher working condition survey. Okay. And once again, it should include the background of the description of the setting if you hadn't already put it in there. And then you're going to look for participants and participations in this survey. So you're going to have conversations, you're going to do surveys, you're going to have focus group discussions. And then from the participants, so it's not as much as pulling the team together as it was in the APSL or the APTL, but it is getting a group of participants and having them look at that, and you together going through that information and analyzing the gaps that's in that teacher working condition survey. Okay, and that is all from times, resources, facilities, leadership. Excuse me, yeah. Oh, that is a typo. That's what that is. So time is in there twice. Okay, so who are your participants? How did they participate? What out of the conversations, out of the surveys, out of the focus group conversations about those 5 areas? What did you find out based on what you've seen, based on what the school setting is like, based on what you've asked and discussed and heard? Then all that information wrapped up together, you should be able to identify some gaps, and as you analyze the findings, make recommendations for task 1. And so then and here's a survey, here's a summary of a needs assessment survey. It's a Likert scale. You can use it with your participants, certainly, but that is all of task 1. Task 2 is analyzing the environment. So you dig into more of maybe what you started with, the school profile or the description of the setting, but you are a participant observer in your school with the purpose of looking qualitatively and observations and interviews with the existing staff to pull out more of the culture of the school. And along these areas, in the area of community setting, school environment, student achievement, cultural diversity, exceptionalities, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, so on and so forth. So this is what you see. A lot of times it's basically what it's saying here in task 1, what you saw in task 1, is that correlated to what you hear people say and how they talk and what they may say in task 2. So you're going to conduct these interviews, conduct these focus group conversations, and to see if what you're seeing in the teacher working condition survey and what you and your participants found in the teacher working condition survey, is that perspective shared by the people in the classrooms, in the hallways of the school. So you're supposed to observe and interview to find out the key items and gaps that exist. So, and looking at that, then you have conversations and you survey and talk to people in these 5 areas. And as you observe, to find out, do people say what you're seeing? Do they express what you're seeing in the teacher working condition survey? Okay, in task 3, you basically just do research on the school, do some fundamental research on the school, on their vision, on their mission, how's the school leadership or organized, how is teacher quality measured, what's the certifications, what's the experience of the teachers, in national board certification, what's the parent involvement and support, what's the policy there, what's the parental, especially if you're a Title I school, there's a parental involvement. They don't call it that anymore. It's a parent and family engagement policy that your district has to have. But as a Title I school, your school is required to have a parent and family engagement plan that shows how they're going to implement the policy. So that should be there, especially if you're a Title I school. How is conflict resolution? Not just student conflict resolution, but how's conflict resolution? What's the process for when teachers have conflict, or when there's community conflict, when parents call in with conflict? What's the conflict resolution process in those areas? That's just not discipline. and what does the student achievement look like. So that's just basically you sitting back and pulling this data and searching it in and looking for it, and giving and writing that narrative up. Excuse me. So there's a section on the vision, on the mission, on the school leadership, and so on and so forth. And that is task 3. Task 4 is a graphic organizational chart that displays all that you have researched and pulled in. So this is your action plan template. You can put it in a PERT chart as well, but it shows the gaps that you've identified and the plan to resolve those gaps and recommendations for improvement. So that's the framework of the action plan that you'll be working in, and that will be for task 4. Now you coincide this template with what the scale handbook says. And I kind of focused on the scale handbook in my overview. So always do, whatever you do, compare it to the rubric in the scale handbook. And if you're not familiar with where the rubric is in the scale handbook for each of the evidences, reach out to me and we'll make sure that you know where it's at. So just don't rely on the template to show you what you need to do. As you go through the template, go back and compare it to the scale handbook, because the scale handbook is the authoritative source. So the prompts, the descriptions, and especially, I can't emphasize this enough, especially the rubric, that is the authoritative source on what this evidence needs to look like. So whatever you do based on what you've seen in the template, compare it and correlate it to the rubric and the scale handbook. And there's a new version, and if you don't have it, I just showed it to you a while ago on my internship scale. But compare it to that to make sure that, because that's what the evaluator uses, as I'm sure you know that, they use that rubric when they're looking over your paper. And make sure you have a summary paragraph that kind of pulls it all together. And then, of course, your references and any artifacts that were created. If you need an appendix, that's fine there. So that is the CAP. That is the CAP. So I'm going to cut the session or close the session. But I just want to emphasize, if you have any questions whatsoever, you reach out to me. Email me. If we need to talk on the phone, we'll talk on the phone. If you need an individual Zoom session, we'll need an individual Zoom session. You guys, I want to be sure that you have the support you need, because you are doing a lot of work. So I want to be sure that you have the support that you need to be successful. The only way I know how to support you best is by you telling me what you need. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions, follow up, clarification. As I said, we will schedule an individual Zoom time. We'll schedule some extra class Zoom sessions if you need to. So I just want to make sure that I provide you with whatever you need to be successful. That's the CAP. Begin working on the CAP. As you get into it, let me know what questions you have. Begin submitting that task, those tasks in the task stream for review, so we can give you feedback, and we'll begin moving forward. On September 29th, I'll be going over the SIOP again. The SIOP is not as difficult. Well, this is kind of a contradictory statement. It's not as easy as it looks to be if you look at the template, but it's not as difficult as it appears to be if you go from the scale handbook. There is a happy medium there that you can fall into, and the CAP will really flow. You can use what you've already done, but you just have to make sure it's within the right context, and it'll flow quite easily. All right, so I hope you pray that you and your family stay safe and healthy. I hope you have a good night. I hope you found this recording beneficial. Once again, I apologize for the mishap, but there's always some transitional issues from one semester to the next, but we'll smooth it out and make sure it doesn't happen again. God bless you all. Reach out to me if I can help you in any way, and I hope you have a good evening. Thank you for watching this recording.